Right, today we're going to look at some respiration for AQA Biology GCSE. So we're going to look at energy. So organisms need energy for many reasons. So one reason is for homeostasis, because we need to keep the body temperature of warm-blooded animals, this is mammals and birds, relatively constant. Another reason we need energy is for growth, to make larger molecules from small molecules. For example, glucose molecules can be joined together to produce starch, which is a storage compound in plants. Proteins can also be made from amino acids in plants and animals. Energy is also needed for muscle contraction, for example, when a cheetah's running. So to contract the muscles of animals, energy is needed for this. So what is the reason that molecules can be joined together to produce starch? Which molecules can be joined together? Glucose molecules. So what do organisms need energy for? They need energy to make large molecules from smaller molecules. Proteins can be made from amino acids, and these are built from sugars and other nutrients in plants. So respiration is an exothermic reaction, which means it releases energy. And respiration supplies all the energy needed for living organisms. This reaction happens continuously in all living cells. The reaction can be aerobic, which means it's in the presence of oxygen, or it can be anaerobic, which means without oxygen. So aerobic respiration. So in this reaction, glucose reacts with oxygen in the mitochondria of cells to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. So the equation for this would be glucose plus oxygen goes to carbon dioxide plus water and also energy. Anaerobic respiration is in the absence of oxygen, and in animals, this means that glucose is not broken down completely, making a less efficient way of transferring energy than aerobic respiration. In animals, glucose is converted to lactic acid. So the equation is glucose, no oxygen, goes to lactic acid. Anaerobic respiration happens when insufficient oxygen reaches the muscles during these periods of intense activity. So for example, if you're doing some really intense running, you're not going to be breathing in enough oxygen to provide to your muscles. So this is slightly different in plants and also in yeast cells. In aerobic respiration, glucose is converted into ethanol and carbon dioxide. And in yeast cells, we'd call that fermentation. And this is used to make bread and also alcohol in industry. So it's an important reaction. So can you remember what the anaerobic respiration reaction is? So glucose goes to lactic acid, and that is in animals. So metabolism. Metabolism is a sum of all the reactions that happen in an organism. Many of these chemical reactions create new molecules with the help of enzymes, which are biological catalysts which speed up reactions. And so metabolic reactions include making amino acids. So this is combining glucose and nitrate ions to make amino acids. Amino acids can then be combined to make proteins. In metabolism, you could also make lipids. So this would be combining glycerol and fatty acid chains together to make lipid molecules. This could also be breaking down excess proteins, and this would form urea, which is excreted, which means it's got rid of in our urine. So the kidneys do this. And a metabolic reaction could also be converting glucose into starch, which happens in plants, or into glycogen in animals, and also cellulose in plants. These are storage compounds. So let's recap. What is a metabolic reaction? Metabolic reactions include breaking down excess amino acids to form urea, which is then excreted. So it could also be breaking down excess proteins as well as amino acids. So what is not involved in the body's metabolism? So converting glucose into starch, that is a metabolic reaction. The retina changing size in response to light, that is not a metabolic reaction, but breaking down proteins into urea is a metabolic reaction. So let's think, why do organisms need energy? They need energy for homeostasis, so to keep their bodies warm. They need it for muscle contraction when running to provide energy for that. They also need it for growing. So can we remember what the reaction for aerobic respiration is? So the chemical formula for glucose is C6H12O6. Then we're going to add oxygen to that, so it'd be B6O2. So we've got glucose plus oxygen goes to 6CO2, carbon dioxide, plus 6H2O, which is water, plus energy. So during respiration, glucose and oxygen react to give carbon dioxide, water, and energy. So an example of a metabolic reaction is breaking down excess proteins to form urea, which is then excreted. So can you remember how many different types of respiration are there that we've talked about? So we've got aerobic respiration and we've got anaerobic respiration. So that's 2. And what are these? As I just said, we've got anaerobic and we've got aerobic. So anaerobic is without oxygen.